A rocket does not glide into orbit. It violently tears through the atmosphere. It burns nearly 80% of its fuel before it even clears the tower, just to escape Earth's gravitational pull. From the ground, it barely looks like progress. It looks like a lot of noise and smoke for very little movement. But the engineers know something the crowd doesn't. That massive fuel burn isn't waste. It's physics. Because once the rocket reaches escape velocity, gravity loses its grip. And from that point forward, the rocket travels at 17,000 miles per hour with almost no additional effort. Wealth follows the same law. Your first $100,000 is the atmosphere. It is slow. It is frustrating. It feels like you are working overtime just to see a tiny bump in your net worth. You save $500, the market gives you 50. You grind all year, your net worth barely moves. Most people quit right here. They think the system is broken. It's not broken. They just haven't reached escape velocity. My name is Zahid. I'm a finance manager. I have my MBA, and I'm a CPA candidate. Today, we are going deep. We aren't just looking at a savings goal. We are looking at the mathematical breaking point where your labor is replaced by your capital. If you stay until the end, I'm going to show you the exact crossover point where your money out-earns your salary. And the CPA secrets to making sure you don't lose that momentum to taxes and fees. Let's talk about the late Charlie Munger. He famously said, "The first $100,000 is a B word, but you gotta do it. In the beginning, you are a linear earner. If you don't work, you don't earn. When you save your first $1,000, you have no leverage. In this sludge phase, you are fighting the four forces of financial gravity: the inflation drag, the tax friction, the lifestyle anchor, and the time decay. Most people quit between years 3 and 5. They've saved $40,000, but the market only grew by $3,000. They feel like they are running in place. But what they don't see is that they are building the critical mass necessary for the explosion. Now, let's get into the math that changes lives. We use a 10% annual return because that is the long-term historical average of the S&P 500. To understand why 100,000 is the magic number, we use the rule of 72. Divide 72 by your interest rate of 10, and you get 7.2 years. That is your doubling time. But here's the secret that most people miss: the amount of money added in each double. In double number 1, you go from 50,000 to 100,000. That's a $50,000 gain. It took 7 years. In double number 2, you go from 100,000 to 200,000. That's a $100,000 gain. It took the same 7 years, but you earned double the money in the same time frame. By the time you reach double number 3, you go from 400,000 to 800,000. You just earned $400,000 in 7 years, likely more than your total lifetime savings up to that point. At $100,000, your 10% return is $10,000 a year. That is a full-time employee working for you for free. At $500,000, that employee is earning $50,000 a year. At that point, you aren't just saving, you are cloning yourself. This is the section where most YouTube gurus lose you. But as a CPA candidate, this is where I show you how to win. Compounding is a clean math equation on paper, but in the real world, it is plagued by friction. There are two things that will kill your escape velocity: taxes and fees. If you have $100,000 in a taxable account and you earn 10%, you owe the IRS a portion of those capital gains and dividends every year. That leak reduces your effective return from 10% to maybe 7 or 8%. At 10%, your money doubles in 7.2 years. At 8%, your money doubles in 9 years. Over a 30-year career, that delay doesn't just slow you down, it costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars. As you cross 100,000, you must shift your focus to asset location. You want your most aggressive growth in tax-free buckets like the Roth IRA or the HSA. Why? Because 10% tax-free is worth significantly more than 12% taxable. Protecting your asset velocity is how the silent investor outperforms the high-income earner who ignores the math. There is a psychological phenomenon that happens between $100,000 and $300,000. I call it the dead zone. You've reached the milestone, yeah, you have the 6 figures. But your life hasn't changed yet. You still drive the same car, you still go to the same job, and you still have the same bills. This is where the status tax becomes dangerous. Most people hit 100,000 and think, "I've made it." So they celebrate by taking out a loan for a $60,000 truck. They've essentially punched a hole in the side of their rocket. Every dollar you vent at 100,000 is a dollar that could have doubled 4 times in the next 28 years. That $60,000 truck isn't just 60,000. It's the $960,000 it would have become at a 10% return over those 28 years. To survive the dead zone, you have to stop looking at your bank balance as spending power and start looking at it as option value. $100,000 gives you the option to say no to a bad boss. $500,000 gives you the option to say no to a bad career. If you are still in the atmospheric burn phase, if you are saving $500 a month and feeling like it's useless, look at the physics. You are building the fuel tank. Once you clear that $100,000 threshold, the work begins to shift from you to the math. You move from the grind to the glide. The first 100,000 is the hardest thing you will ever build, but it is the last thing you will ever have to build manually. From there, the law of critical mass takes over. If you want to understand the math of the 1%, you need to stop watching the hype and start watching the data. Hit subscribe to join the silent investors. I'm Zahid. I'll see you in orbit.